These live TV broadcasts were never meant to end the way they did. Millions watched as a reporter ran for her life, people exacting revenge, and other shocking outcomes no one was prepared for.
I thought I was a dead man. I considered that obviously it wasn't going to end well, that I wasn't going to really survive it.
These are the darkest moments in television history.
Confirmation from our very own Foreign Secretary, Robin Cook, that Diana, Princess of Wales, has in fact been killed in that car accident.
Back in 1981, veteran investigative journalist Roger Cook was filming a report in Brighton when things took a dangerous turn.
We have a tape recording of it. Would you like to see the transcript of the tape recording? You would? Jolly good. Well, here's...
I've got 3 men broke in my shop and mob-handed.
They're not mob-handed.
Yeah, quick.
We've come in to answer a couple of...
Right, 500-481.
Cook had been digging into a business selling high-quality fake antiques, pieces so convincing that some had already slipped through the gates of Sotheby's and Christie's, 2 of the world's most respected auction houses. Cook confronted dealer Harris Christopher George about the operation, but instead of answering, George stormed off, then came back wielding a metal bar. In front of a live television crew, he chased Cook through the street. After this, Cook required medical attention, but he recovered quickly and went back to doing what he does best. As for the fate of George's business and the counterfeit antiques, no clear outcome was ever made public. Columbia disaster.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Peter Jennings at ABC News headquarters. In the words of a flight director at NASA, it has been a bad day.
On the morning of February 1st, 2003, viewers across the U.S. tuned in to watch history unfold. Little did they know, it would unfold in the most tragic way possible. Peter Jennings, a familiar and trusted figure on ABC News, appeared on screen, clearly carrying the weight of what had just happened. The Space Shuttle Columbia, which had been scheduled to return home that morning, had broken apart during re-entry. What was supposed to be a smooth landing turned into one of the darkest moments.
Columbia was at 200,000 feet, going 12,500 miles an hour when it suddenly broke up under stress that we still do not understand. 16 minutes from home. We begin our field reporting with ABC's Ned Potter.
Jennings wasn't just reading a script, he was delivering something much heavier, a national tragedy unfolding in real time. His voice was steady, but there were moments of pauses where the gravity of the situation seemed to settle in. Game gone wrong. During a soccer game in Ethiopia, things got out of hand fast. The referee gave a goal to Defense Force SC, but the other team, Wallo, didn't take it well.
ጨዋታ አስቀድሞ ኳስን ከመረብ ጋር በማገናኘት ወልዋሎ ቀዳሚ ነበር በሪችሞንድ አዶንጎ የ22ኛ ደቂቃ ግብ አማካኝነት.
Players and coaches ran onto the field, yelling and pushing. The ref tried to protect himself with a corner flag.
ከረፍት መልስ በ83ኛው ደቂቃ ፍጹም ገብረ ማርያም ግብ አስቆጥሮ መከላከያን 2-1 እንዲመራ አስቻለም.
But one of the coaches still got to him and hit him. That coach was kicked out of the league right away, and the season was put on pause. The whole thing was caught on camera and spread all over the internet. This moment went against everything that the sport stood for. Mother's revenge. Marianne Bachmeyer's daughter Anna was unalived by Klaus Grabowski, and on the 3rd day of trial, 6th March 1981, at 10 a.m., Marianne managed to bring a Beretta 70 and exacted her revenge. She emptied the clip, and all of it happened so fast that even security couldn't react in time. The video you're watching is a reconstruction of what happened and not actual footage. Later, when asked why she did it, Marianne said, "I wanted to kill him. I wanted to shoot him in the face, but I only got his back." End quote. Live hostage situation. On February 8, 1977, Anthony Tony Karitzis, a real estate developer, entered the office of Richard O. Hall, president of the Meridian Mortgage Company in Indianapolis, Indiana, and took him hostage with a sawed-off 12-gauge. Tony wired it to Hall's neck with a Deadman switch from the trigger to his own neck.
First leveled the gun at me, the handgun. I looked him in the eye and I thought to myself, how can God let a man get this angry?
He forced Hall through downtown streets in near 0-degree weather. The entire time he was surrounded by police and journalists. He commandeered a police car and took Hall to drive to his Crestwood Village apartment. He told police the apartment was rigged and then chained Hall in the bathroom, holding him captive for 63 hours. Tony had purchased a 17-acre West Side property in hopes of developing a shopping center. His $130,000 mortgage with Meridian Mortgage was due on the 1st of March and accused the company of having deliberately sabotaged his project. Paul signed an agreement where he admitted to having mistreated Tony and agreed Tony will not be prosecuted or arrested.
If I stand up to him, I'm better off. If I let him roll all over me and I become a whimpering guy, it may not be to my best interest.
But 8 months later, Tony was tried on charges of kidnapping, armed robbery, and armed extortion. On October 21 of the same year, he was found not guilty by reason of insanity and was turned over to the State Department of Mental Health.
It's probably affected me more than I really imagined, but I don't have a sense that I've had a lot of psychological impact from the whole affair.
Courtroom chaos. In a Las Vegas courtroom, what started as a sentencing quickly turned into a moment no one saw coming. As Judge Mary Kay Holthus prepared to deliver her decision, Deobra Redden suddenly leapt over the defense table, then launched himself over the judge's bench. What followed looked more like a tackle than a courtroom scene. Stunned by the sudden outburst, officers and attorneys quickly rushed in to pull him off. Despite the chaos, Judge Holthus returned to work the next day, unfazed. Mr. Redden has now been sentenced to 26 to 45 years in prison. Hillsborough disaster. The steel gates at Hillsborough stood between thousands of eager fans, but within minutes, one decision would turn this sea of excitement into one of the most infamous moments in football history. On April 15, 1989, Liverpool and Nottingham Forest met for an FA Cup semi-final at Sheffield's Hillsborough Stadium. But at the Leppings Lane end, the entrance layout created a bottleneck, trapping thousands in a narrow approach outside the ground. Chief Superintendent David Duckenfield, newly appointed as match commander, made a split-second call to open Gate C to relieve the pressure. Instead of dispersing the crowd, it channeled them directly into already packed pens, setting off a chain of events that no one on the pitch could comprehend until it was already too late. Players stopped as they saw fans climbing the barriers to escape, others lying on the pitch. Emergency response was slow, hindered by poor communication and confusion. In the hours that followed, Hillsborough claimed the lives of 96 fans, and in the days after, the story took an even darker turn. Some media outlets, fed by inaccurate police briefings, wrongly placed blame on the behavior of fans. For years, survivors and relatives campaigned for justice. In 2000, a private prosecution was brought against Duckenfield and fellow officer Bernard Murray, but neither was convicted. But in 2012, the Hillsborough Independent Panel revealed that police statements had been altered to protect senior officers. So, 4 years later, the jury cleared the fans of any blame. David Duckenfield was tried for all 96 lives by gross negligence, but was not found guilty. Graham Mackerel, the Sheffield Wednesday club secretary and safety officer at the time, was found guilty and fined £6,500 over turnstile arrangements, making him the only person ever convicted over Hillsborough.
Came home to the loved ones in a wooden box. They're treated disgracefully. The vile things what are said about them, and all what we get after 30 years is £67.70 per victim.
A world in despair. On August 31, 1997, millions turned on their TVs to hear something they couldn't believe. Behind the desk at Sky News, Kay Burley was the one who had to deliver one of the worst news imaginable, not just for the country, but for the entire world.
Confirmation from our very own Foreign Secretary, Robin Cook, who's in the Far East at the moment, that Diana, Princess of Wales, has in fact been killed in that car accident.
Princess Diana, the only royalty that won the hearts of millions across the globe, had been involved in a car incident in Paris. Diana, alongside her partner, Dodi Fayed, and the driver, Henri Paul, all sadly passed away. The world didn't know all the details yet, but in those early minutes, no one could believe what they were hearing.
Princess Diana did.
Oh, she died.
Where's the remote?
Oh my God. Get it loud.
There have been countless theories as to what may have happened, with conspiracy theories that involved members of the royal family. But all of them shared one thing in common. The world had just lost a part of its kindness. Debate gone wild. In the middle of a live political debate in Georgia, things got weird fast. 1 second, Zaza Agladze was arguing his point. The next, he tossed a glass of water straight at his opponent. Irakli Glonti. Without missing a beat, Glonti threw his own drink back. What was meant to be a serious discussion turned into a live splash fight, complete with broken chairs and soaked clothes. Stadium in shambles. After Vitesse Arnhem's win over NEC Nijmegen, fans in the away section were bouncing with joy. But then part of the stand under them suddenly dropped. Dozens of fans went down with such a sound that froze the entire stadium. Everyone feared the worst, but surprisingly, and thankfully almost everyone was fine. A container underneath caught the fall. Once people realized they were safe, the cheers came back even louder. What could have been a disaster turned into a wild story about fans who literally shook the stadium. The Niagara incident. He stood at the edge of Niagara Falls, water crashing just inches away, and the only thing holding him back was his foot, jammed into a crack in the rock. In 2003, tourists watched in shock as a 59-year-old man clung to the ledge of Horseshoe Falls, completely still, soaking wet, and surrounded by mist. He had just lost everything at a casino and was drowning in debt, but even as freezing water pounded his body, he wouldn't let go. For nearly 2 hours, emergency teams battled wind and cold to reach him. One rescuer finally jumped in and pulled him to safety. Great fall-off. Asa Kyer, a famous acrobat in China, tried to walk across a tightrope blindfolded, backwards, and without any safety gear.
刚才在事前我们跟各位介绍呢，艾斯卡尔的今天的这个是在无保护状态的。那么大家看到它上面是有这个。
It was a huge challenge, 700 meters long and way up in the air. He was close to the end when strong wind and dizziness made him lose balance. Then it happened.
好，现场的蒙眼盗走钢丝极限挑战的直播。
People were sure it was all over, but a miracle was seen.
但艾斯卡尔到目前为止，他到目前为止他仍然做到。好，他继续起程。
He survived because the trees broke his fall. It was a scary moment on live TV, one that nobody will ever forget. On TV. Back in 2019, Tim Bleefnick appeared on an episode of Family Feud alongside his family. Steve Harvey asked him, "What's the biggest mistake you made at your wedding?" Tim responded with a smirk, saying, "I do."
What's the biggest mistake you made at your wedding?
Honey, I love you, but said I do. Not my mistake. I love my wife.
It was a joke that made everyone laugh, but a few years later, it would come back to haunt everyone. By early 2023, Tim and his wife, Rebecca Bleefnick, were deep into a messy divorce. There were ongoing custody battles over their children, protective orders, and growing tension between them. People close to Rebecca had started to worry about how far things might go, though no one expected it would lead to her demise. On February 23rd, 2023, Rebecca didn't show up to pick up her kids from Tim. Sometime later, her father found her on the bathroom floor and called 911. Officers arrived at her home in Quincy, Illinois, and ruled out burglary since nothing was stolen. It was personal, so they turned their attention to Tim. As they started pulling together digital records and surveillance footage, a clear picture started to form. Tim had searched online for things like how to break into a house through a second-story window, how to delete security footage, and how long residue stays on clothing. Cameras in the neighborhood showed a man riding a bicycle toward Rebecca's house the night it happened. Police recovered that exact bike, along with gloves and dark clothing hidden in Tim's basement. His phone data placed him near her home at the time. He was arrested in March of the same year and charged with homicide and home invasion. He pleaded not guilty, but prosecutors argued that this was not a crime of passion. It had been planned. The jury took just a few hours to convict him. Tim Bleefnick was sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole. Live breakdown. Jessica Robb was doing a normal news report for CTV Edmonton when things suddenly went wrong. She started mixing up her words and said she wasn't feeling well.
After the day, families are pushing the feds to. Sorry, Aaron, I'm not feeling very well now, and
You could tell something was off. The screen quickly cut back to the studio, and people watching were left confused and worried. Later, Jessica said it was a personal health issue and not what some people online were guessing. She's doing okay now, but that moment really showed how live TV can take a turn without warning. Off to heaven. On April 20, 2008, Father Atelier Antonio de Carli set out from the coastal city of Paranagua, Brazil, on a journey unlike anything the locals had seen before. Seated in a simple chair and lifted by nearly 1,000 colorful helium balloons, his goal was to break the world record for balloon flight duration and raise funds to build a rest stop for truckers passing through his parish. He wore a thermal flight suit, helmet, parachute, and waterproof gear, carrying food, water, a GPS device, and a satellite phone. But as he rose to an estimated 6,000 meters, the wind shifted. Instead of pushing him toward land, it carried him out over the Atlantic Ocean. He kept in touch with air traffic control, but before long, the signal was lost. The Brazilian Navy, Air Force, local fire services, and even a plane rented by his family joined the effort, searching the waters off the Santa Catarina coastline. Small fragments of balloons were spotted floating in the sea. Days went by with no trace, and on April 24, the Air Force ended its involvement in the search, and 5 days later, the Navy as well. Then on July 4, fishermen near the city of Macaé discovered part of a body in the water. The remains had been carried far from where Atelier had vanished. After DNA tests were completed, the authorities confirmed the identity. The remains were returned to Paranagua, where a large crowd gathered to honor him with applause and a memorial mass, before he was laid to rest in a chapel in Ampere. Value of truth. This is the story of Ruth Thalia Sayas, and how a moment of truth on screen turned into a case that shook a nation.
¿Estás nerviosa, Ruth Thalia?
Sí, un poco.
Ruth Thalia Sayas Sanchez appeared on the first episode of The Value of Truth, a Peruvian reality show where contestants revealed deeply personal details on air. She spoke openly about her double life, working in a nightclub, accepting money for her services.
¿Trabajas en un nightclub?
Sí.
¿Has aceptado dinero a cambio de tener relaciones sexuales?
Sí.
And, most painfully, that she loved her boyfriend only until something better comes along. That confession would be the cause of her own demise. A few months later, on September 11, 2012, Brian Romero Leyva, her boyfriend, lured her to his home under the guise of a conversation, and that was the last time she was ever seen alive. She was found inside a well on a property owned by Brian's uncle, Reddy Leyva Cerrone, in Jicamarca. In September 2012, Brian confessed, and justice, when it came, felt delayed and incomplete. 2 years later, a Peruvian court sentenced Brian Romero Leyva and his uncle Reddy Leyva Cerrone to life in prison and ordered them to pay 700,000 soles in civil reparations. But in 2021, their sentences were inexplicably reduced to 33 and 30 years. Ruth Thalia's father called the decision indignant, and Ruth paid the cost of truth. Live collision. While reporting from a high-risk intersection in Los Angeles, KTLA journalist Gene Kang was covering a recent hit-and-run incident when a new one happened behind him. Just as he warned viewers about the danger at Hoover and 84th Street, two cars drove into each other on live television. One of the drivers immediately fled the scene.
Street here, officials say it's one of the most dangerous streets in all of Los Angeles, and now
the camera kept rolling as Kang and his crew contacted emergency services and helped the people involved. A license plate from the fleeing car was recovered at the scene. Courtroom quake. In July 2008, filming for an episode of Judge Judy was suddenly interrupted by a low rumble that quickly turned into a full shake. The cameras kept rolling as the set rattled, causing the audience to look around in alarm. Even Judge Judy herself stepped away from the bench. Within seconds, the tremor eased and the room began to settle.
Okay. Well, he got your credit card, your bank card somehow, and he got your PIN number somehow.
Officials reported it to be of 5.2 magnitude that struck California, centered about 28 miles from Los Angeles, but strong enough to be felt more than 100 miles away. Thankfully, everyone was fine. Robbed on live TV. In Rio de Janeiro, a live TV interview about rising crime suddenly turned into the perfect example of the problem. The woman being interviewed was standing on a busy street, talking about the dangers in her neighborhood, a place already known for pickpockets and muggings. She was in the middle of her sentence when a hand slid across her back from behind. In one swift move, a young man tried to yank her necklace away.
A senhora sabe que essa região tá brava, né?
É, pior que é, né? Mas eu nem...
Vem cá!
She reacted just as quickly, pulling back before he could take it. The thief darted off into the crowd, disappearing before anyone could stop him. One of the crew members gave chase, but the robber was already gone. Reptilian Eyes. Uploaded in October 2018, this unsettling clip is said to have come from a Spanish news broadcast. The uploader claims it might be proof that reptilian shapeshifters are living among us. Everything seems normal until the end of the report, when the reporter blinks, and for a split second, it looks like he has a second set of eyelids. The uploader said that the reporter, thinking the camera was off, might have briefly dropped his disguise. It ties into the controversial theory made famous by former BBC sports broadcaster David Icke, who believes a hidden race of lizard-like beings walks among us.
All that apparently time ago. And there are many non-human entities that are interacting with this reality. But the theme that keeps coming to me over the years in relation to these bloodlines behind the Illuminati is of some form of reptilian entities, which are the next stage on, because it goes on beyond them, but the next stage on behind the Illuminati bloodlines and the interbreeders with them is this reptilian group.
Surprisingly, over 4% of registered American voters reportedly agree with him. This clip is unsettling, but it shows that these reptilian beings might have infiltrated other parts of our world. Shocking moment. A reporter in Seattle arrived at a park expecting to cover a regular news story, but before cameras could roll, he witnessed a man being in need of help just a few feet away.
And a news reporter was getting ready for a shoot at a park in Seattle.
Without hesitation, he ran in and pulled the suspect off the person. Bystanders called emergency services, and the victim received immediate care. The suspects had already disappeared by the time police arrived.
The reporter jumped on the suspect, pulled him off the victim, and broke up the fight. A witness called 911. The victim was treated at the scene. The suspects left before police arrived.
Sick on tour. While Justin Bieber was doing his concert on his Believe tour in Arizona, when something happened to him that made his fans worry about his health, he was walking towards the front of the stage when he turned around and this happened. The incident happened in front of thousands, leaving fans stunned. He stepped off stage briefly before returning to finish the set. The exact cause was never publicly detailed. On air collapse.
Worries today for a veteran sportscaster who had a scary medical emergency on live TV, and we should warn you, the video's upsetting.
What started as normal commentary during an Atlanta Hawks game turned serious in seconds.
Big for a 19-year-old kid. Wow.
Veteran announcer Bob Rathbun was mid-sentence when he suddenly leaned back, his body trembling in front of the live camera. Viewers were stunned, unsure if it was part of the show. Turns out it wasn't. Someone quickly rushed in, and the feed cut away.
Slumps in his chair, then starts convulsing, while his co-anchor keeps going, unaware of the emergency.
Later, it was revealed that Bob had passed out from dehydration. Thankfully, quick medical attention helped him recover. Courtroom outburst. During a courtroom hearing in Chelsea, Massachusetts, the atmosphere shifted as disturbing details were revealed. Peter DeConnick, 46, stood accused after a confrontation at a trailer home led to serious charges. Prosecutors shared that his friend Ronald Russo had sustained injuries.
The report revealed that Mr. Russo did suffer 69 knife wounds to his body.
But all of this overwhelming information pushed Russo's brother, Thomas, to rush toward DeConnick in court. Security intervened quickly, with 4 officers stepping in to de-escalate. Thomas was briefly detained but released soon after. As for DeConnick, the court later handed down a life sentence. Shocking incident. There was a Pentagon press briefing when the room went from calm to concern in a matter of seconds. Air Force Major General James Martin Jr. was mid-sentence when suddenly something happened to him in front of the cameras. Military aides and staff rushed to assist.
We actually go back to... Hold on a minute. Sir, can somebody help me?
The live broadcast quickly cut away while Martin was taken for medical care. Officials later confirmed that he had experienced a sudden drop in BP and was recovering.
You okay? Okay. I'm gonna sit you down. Can I get a chair?
Yeah, get a chair. Take some more. What happened?
During live concert. During a live performance by the Red Hot Chili Peppers, something unusual caught fans' attention. Flea, the band's bassist, appeared visibly frustrated, and for a moment, many assumed there was a serious issue with the performance. But lead singer Anthony Kiedis soon noticed the real problem. Flea's in-ear monitor had fallen out, disrupting his ability to hear the music clearly. It looked like a major disagreement on stage, and it was all because of a minor technical error, one that completely changed the energy of the performance. On-air clash. 19th of July, 2001. Good Day New York took a sharp turn on live TV. Reporter Dick Oliver was out in the field when anchor Jim Ryan suddenly interrupted him in the middle of the report.
Go away. That's what? Does she have a response to that? Is she still there?
What's that?
Did the lady just leave?
Yeah.
Oh, that's too bad. We should have kept that discussion.
She's back if you want her.
Yes.
She heard you.
Yes.
What'd you like to know?
Calling out his delivery in front of the entire audience. Oliver fired back immediately. The two started arguing live right there on air. The host tried to keep things moving, but the tension didn't go unnoticed. Viewers watched it all unfold with no cutaway.
Well, if I have to teach you how to be a reporter, Ollie, I'll do that later.
Why don't you do that later, Jim? I think the lady expressed herself, and you're not here, you're there. Is there any question you'd like me to ask her?
Woman behind Obama. It was supposed to be a routine speech. President Obama addressing the nation about healthcare updates with a row of supporters behind him.
And John eventually predicted that the website will work like a champ. So he was frustrated by the website.
But as he spoke, one woman standing behind him began to sway. Something was clearly wrong.
But he's feeling a little less frustrated once he found out that he was saving $900 a month on his health insurance.
Obama noticed, paused mid-sentence, and calmly reached back to steady her. With just a small gesture, he signaled for help.
To free families from the pervasive fear that one illness.
She was guided off stage within seconds. It wasn't dramatic, but the moment struck a chord.
This happens when I talk too long.
Possessed Live. A live show in Thailand back in July 2016 took a turn for the worse when Thai model Thipawan Chafupuang went quiet. Not like she was thinking, but something mysterious and creepy.
ไม่อยากให้มาเลยอะ
คือเขาจะมานี่เริ่มมาเลยใช่ไหมเขา นี่คืออะไรฮะ นี่คือเข้ามาแล้วใช่ไหมมายังใจเย็นนะฮะเป็นไรครับนี่จะเป็นอะไรอยู่
She explained that on a recent trip to Rayong, she felt something follow her back. Not a person, but what Thai folklore calls a pop, a spirit said to crave raw meat, right there on live TV. Her voice shifted, deeper and strange.
สวัสดีครับคุณเป็นใครฮะ
เฮ้ยยุ่งอะไรกับกูนักหนาจะพากูมาทำอะไรเนี่ยฮะคุณเป็นใครนะคะขอโทษที
her body stiffening as she began demanding pig's blood. The host tried to keep the conversation going like nothing was wrong, maybe hoping she'd snap out of it, but that wouldn't happen until the very end of the interview. He brought over a Buddha necklace and slipped it around her neck. Then her body relaxed, her voice returned to normal, and the eerie spell was broken, leaving everyone absolutely shocked.
ตัวนี้ตัวเขาสั่นมากเลยนะออกไปไหมโอเคไหม
Shape-shifting live. It starts off looking like any standard news segment, a reporter standing in front of the camera, calmly delivering the story. But halfway through, something strange happens. Without warning, the reporter bolts out of frame, as if reacting to something we can't see.
Arrest, but the mother says that her 16-year-old daughter, the victim in this case, was also arrested here back on September 18th.
The cameraman quickly adjusts, making sure he stays out of sight for the rest of the shot. People online, however, noticed creepy details. The reporter's skin started to change, and unlike any other glitch, his skin started to deform into a reptilian, scaly-like appearance. That is why some believe he went off camera to allow his human mask to come back on. Since this segment was being broadcast live, the network couldn't take it off the television completely.
Now keep in mind, this is the family story, their account of what they see happened here on campus earlier this month. Unfortunately, we weren't able...
Arrogant robber. On December 14, 2015, a bank in Rochester, Minnesota, had already been robbed once that morning. But less than 45 minutes later, the suspect came back, and this time, a local news crew was already there.
24 hours ago, this bank in North... That guy right there. What? That's the robber. Oh, that's the robber.
KIMT reporter Adam Sallet was standing outside the bank mid-broadcast, describing the earlier robbery. Suddenly, a bank employee rushed into frame, pointing across the street. Without missing a beat, Sallet told viewers they were looking at the robber, then stepped away to call 911. Sallet later explained he didn't capture the suspect on camera because he was filming the segment himself. Police say the man ran off, but officers tracked his footprints through the snow to a nearby parking lot. Within the hour, he was under arrest.
This is live TV, folks. That's the robber just went by, according to the bank employee. So I gotta go here and call 911.
Reporter drama. 10 years ago in June, in the city of Puebla, Mexico, a 24-year-old TV reporter, Lydia Cummings, was there to cover flooding. But instead of wading through the water like the townspeople, she was photographed being carried across a flooded street by a man and a woman. She had her arms wrapped around their shoulders, holding a microphone in one hand and a pink phone in the other, while the two struggled through ankle-deep, murky water. The image spread online within hours, sparking criticism that she seemed more concerned about keeping her shoes dry than showing respect for the community she was reporting on. Her employer, Azteca Puebla, quickly released a statement calling her behavior disrespectful and announced she would no longer be part of their team. Game show deceiver. In 1972, Edward Wayne Edwards walked onto the set of To Tell the Truth, where contestants tried to guess who among three individuals was telling the truth about their identity. Edwards presented himself as a reformed criminal, someone who had turned his life around after years in prison.
Number 3, did you get a proper degree from your studies in prison?
Yes, I did.
What no one knew was that the man sitting before them wasn't reformed at all. He was hiding something far darker. Edwards and his family would move houses quite often, but wherever they moved, crimes would follow, often with no clear suspects. His daughter, April Balacio, from a young age, sensed something wasn't right.
We didn't stay in one place for very long. I think I calculated I had been to 16 different schools throughout from starting kindergarten through my senior year.
In 2009, those suspicions became too strong to ignore. April decided to search her father's name online, pairing it with the details of a few unsolved crimes she remembered from the places they had lived. What she found was alarming. The dates lined up, so did the locations. She contacted investigators in Wisconsin and shared everything.
What's the first crime you remember him being accused of?
The first crime that I remember him being accused of, not doing, but being accused of, would be the arson. I believe my father, for some reason, was upset with the landlord. And he proceeded to try to burn the home down that we were living in. And we just picked up and headed to Atlanta.
One case stood out immediately: the 1980 double homicide of Tim Hack and Kelly Drew in Jefferson County. With her information, authorities reopened the case and submitted preserved evidence for new DNA testing. The results were conclusive. The DNA matched Edward Wayne Edwards. Once arrested, Edwards admitted to 5 homicides in total. Edwards was a dangerous man pretending to be a friendly neighbor. Reptilian preacher. During a routine sermon being live-streamed, something shocking happened. The preacher had just begun speaking when the video feed showed a strange visual shift. His face appeared to distort into something unnatural, green-toned, elongated, and oddly reptilian. Viewers who saw the footage described the face as completely different. The eyes, the skin texture, and the shape of the mouth no longer looked human. A short time later, the same distortion appeared again. This time, it lasted longer.
You were at a place and you saw somebody change their religion to another religion in the temple of that religion, and the father was the priest there. What would you think?
What makes this incident so unusual is that digital glitches, especially on live streams, tend to be chaotic and inconsistent. This distortion followed the same transformation both times. Some viewers believed it was a coincidence caused by streaming issues. Others saw it as evidence of reptilians living among us. What do you think? Open discussion. Australian correspondent Lauren Tomasi was covering the protests happening in downtown LA on the 9th of June, 2025. This was due to outrage over immigration and customs enforcement, or ICE, raids throughout the city. Sounds familiar. She was describing the scene when something struck her on live television. It was a rubber round and happened mid-report. Her reaction was instant. Despite her initial reaction, Tomasi could be heard saying, "I'm good," and later confirmed to 9 News that she and her cameraman were safe. As of me making this video, no agency has taken responsibility for who was the one that fired. Australia's Department of Foreign Trade said that all journalists should be able to do their work safely.